Spittle Spew Hi-Shelf. At Hi-Shelf.
Doohickey started.
All right. We're here with Mike Wilson, and I didn't get your name, or he said it in passing, and I was like,
I'm Ralph.
put it on him. All right.
Ralph, Writ Ralf from Bitten Apple TV.
All right.
That guy.
Yeah. Go ahead and shameless plug away. Show us how it's done.
We are the Appletinis from Bitten Apple TV. We do writing shows, geek shows, shows about life. We do skits, web series, and we cover conventions. We bring to you the things you love and the exciting and new. We love to make you smile. So take a chance and take a bite of the apple before we take a bite out of you.
It's it's so funny because I'm usually on the other side of the thing doing the interview, so you don't get to do this part and go. Everybody else is always doing it for Hey, look, I got this product and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I'm Ralph from Bitten Apple TV. I have a writing show on Bitten Apple TV that what I did was I decided that I was doing a lot of reading and research on how to become a writer. The problem was that the books only teach you a certain amount of way. It teaches you what you need to do to be a writer, not how to be a writer. So I decided, okay, since I've been on this journey to become a writer, I was going to make a show for people to come with me on the journey and become better writers together.
Gotcha.
Because I wanted to show them that all you have to really do is write. If you want to write, you write. But most people make it so complicated and difficult that they can't handle. They feel like it's something else. Like especially when you're reading a book about writing, it's telling you, oh, this technique and that technique and do this and do that.
The formula.
Exactly, the formula. But the whole thing is like anything else. You write. You want to write, you write. It's not that difficult. Just write. And then everybody's like, oh, but I don't know how to put just write. What do you want to do? What is it that you want to put on the paper? Just write it on the paper. Because if you don't write it on the paper, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
If you write it on the paper, then you can go, okay, I didn't like this. You can do something about it. I didn't like this, so I'm going to change it to that. And then you fix it, and then you fix it, and then you fix it. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, you wrote something.
No, it's funny. I've been writing the screenplay for a while, and I think the main reason it's taken me as long as it has is because I don't have any training in writing. So it was all these first discoveries. Like the next one won't take as long because but also there was all this. I realized after a while, I was like, I wish I had some sort of not formula, but if I knew what I was doing as I was doing it, it wouldn't have been such a long journey of discovery. But you're right. But what I found out was because I was trying to make every time I went to the page, make it worthwhile. And it's sometimes some of these abstract ideas don't even become, you don't choose them until you write them down. And now you're like, I don't like that.
Exactly.
That's one step further than you were when you weren't making any decision at all. And sometimes it just has to be on the page for you to so that's, I totally agree with you. And too bad I didn't meet you 5 years ago. Maybe, I could be doing something right now.
Like I said, it's so funny that people just, it's called writing. So you figure people would write, right? Even if you're like putting together bullet points, whatever you're doing, it's still writing. And it still makes you put it down in front of you, look at the process, see what you're doing. Each time you write something down or you put it in front of you, it makes you move forward.
Exactly.
Without the journey of writing that you did, you wouldn't be where you are with the project you're working on.
Sure.
Because it'd be a whole different project.
It would. It's true. Which kind of makes me worry sometimes because I'm thinking these other cool ideas I came up with longer into the process, would I have missed out on them if I had been faster? So I don't know, or would I have arrived at them faster if I had gotten myself to that place to ask those questions? I don't know.
That's the ancient question. Because the way we become creative is to be creative. And would we have been as creative or figured out what we were talking about without the creative process?
It's very interesting. Showing up to the page is hugely important.
It is.
Yep. So what are you what's this? First of all, did you say where to find it?
Well, Bitten Apple TV, you can find it everywhere. It's on Instagram, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. Just look for Bitten Apple TV and you should be able to find it. At the same time, we also go to conventions and we cover even, the comic book conventions, the gaming conventions, the whatever it looks like it's interesting out there in the tri-state area. You know, we're the Bitten Apple, so we take a bite out of the apple.
Gotcha. All right. What are you working on right now other than?
I'm working on a web series for Bitten Apple TV that it's a kung fu type of thing, and I want to get it done by the end of the year or before the end of the year to see if we can get it out there, because we have a show coming up, Urban Action Showcase
Expo, November 9th.
Right, and what we want to do is, since we're going to be part of them, we want to they're going to actually give us a table where we don't usually do tables because we're usually on the other side. We're usually the ones coming, checking things out. But this time we have a table, and we want to showcase some of the stuff that we do, some of our shows. And since my partner, Caccamo, who has her own show about her quirky life, she's big in kung fu, she's big on the martial arts, and this is one of the reasons why we got involved with the Urban Action, because she was like, "Oh my God, this looks interesting." So we want to showcase her kung fu and some of the martial arts that other people do too as well.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. What are you up to, Mike? You want to shameless plug something? He's taking pictures of something in the other room earlier.
Nothing. I mean, I just had some shoes on. They fly as I don't know what. You guys remember me. I'm Mike. What's up?
So this is your fetish page?
Ooh.
Is this where you're tying shoelaces and you're like, thank
God,
you, dickhead
yes.
421?
For the record, Zach is the one who complimented my socks when we walked into the room.
Ooh.
So,
well, hey, I recognize greatness.
The Phoenix shoe is actually Calvin from the Bitten Apple was like, these people let you make shoes, and I said okay. So I made shoes, and some of my friends bought them, and that was nice. And so I have shoes for sale. They're based on my brand, Phoenix stuff. Yeah, I'm always doing Phoenix things, part of my brand. And Ralph was nice enough to come through today, and I was like, hey, if
that's
you take
how
some
we
pictures.
all met.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Ralph is super dope, which is why he's doing most of the talking today. And I was like, hey, Ralph, you should talk to Zach, because Zach likes to talk, and Giancarlo, because he likes to talk. You three should talk. I'm just going to be here. But if y'all say something and I think it's cool, I'll respond.
If we need shoes, you're the guy over there, right?
Yo,
nice.
The 2 for $5 shoes. I got you 2 for $5 shoes.
Sweet.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna ask him that question. What have you been up to?
Me, I've been currently editing for a new music video by George Stass coming out pretty soon. It's living in a Dylan song, and essentially what he's talking about in this video is that in a sense we've kind of had this retrograde sort of action in history where we're kind of almost going back to the crazy time of the 60s. Granted though, all of time, I mean, if you look at even still in the 80s or 90s, man, everything kind of has their own craziness in their own period, but not so much the similarities in between the 60s right now and what's going on today with all the protests. He's basically talking about how it's just like we're back there right now, we're back in history, and it's like we're in a Dylan song, and that's kind of what that's about. I shot the video for him, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've been just kind of nonstop editing and losing my mind. I don't know, if do you guys ever have those things where maybe with writing or with doing mixing, where you're just doing it, you're cramming it for a day, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed, and then the moment that you start to sleep, you're dreaming that you're writing, or you're dreaming that you're mixing. You're just kind of doing it, and you're just slowly starting to mess up, and maybe you're looking up a few sentences, you're like, no, that's not what I wrote, and you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, just go back to bed, and you just keep repeating that, like that's sort of like delirium.
It just stays in you. It
Yeah.
just
That's
eats
never
you up.
happened to me. It sounds terrifying.
I've had that happen with with playing too much video games, or just like if you're really into a book. And
I'll
you're just,
give
like,
you the
reading
games. I think as a kid, I'd play a game and I'd dream about the game and you just
And
keep
then-
getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the closest I am with that.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I've never like made a song. It was like the song just kept not working. That's a terrifying dream. I would never want to have that.
In the end, delirium is,
Yeah.
I think, the best word for it. Yeah.
The other way for me is that I'll be writing, and I've spent the day writing, and I'll go to sleep, and what's gonna happen is it goes, dude, this is the idea, and then forget sleep. I'm gonna go back up, and I'm gonna keep writing.
That's happened
Yeah.
to me.
That's one. I think that's one of the top 5 things that I hate fucking happening is when just as you're about to fall asleep and you get a great idea and you're at that moment where you're like, I could either rouse myself out of this comfort and write the idea down, or I could just just let go and go back to sleep. And it's just like,
Definitely.
and I've tried to do both, where you're trying to write without getting out of bed, then you read it late and you're like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Like that episode of Seinfeld, actually.
I even did a
yeah.
recording, and it was like, and you're like, what the hell did I just say? It was a great idea. Damn
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You guys just reminded me there was something that came to me pretty much mid-dream, and I woke up and I was going to write it down, and I didn't. But for whatever reason, I still remember it, so I just wrote it down. So
good.
thank you for saying
Okay.
that.
What is that on your phone?
What do you mean?
That looks cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Oh, so this is a computer company. They made their first phone, second phone, Razer, the Razer gaming computer people.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a Hydra.
All right.
Yeah.
It was cool until you said gaming.
Its conversation has been about gaming to like a good 20%
That's
degree,
true.
so just live with
Not
it.
the gaming this pimp's involved in.
Gotcha. You rather listen to music all day, I understand.
Okay, let's just move on. So, how do you set up your program? I mean, is there a start and finish, and you start again with something else, or is it a forum, or how do you?
Oh, for the writing show.
Yeah.
What I tend to do is I started off doing word prompts, and then what happened was I'd give the person the word prompt, and I'll say, this is the word prompt. It'll be like, and then the lady got hit in the head by a car, and like, what? So it's ludicrous. Now you have to figure out how to write around that phrase, and then write what you're gonna write. So
Okay.
I would have my stuff written already, and then when I first started, I would read it in the next episode. Now what I do is like, this is the word prompt, or this is the challenge, and I'll read what I wrote, and then they can go off and do they can take it whichever direction they want to take it in.
Okay, and they submit it back to you, and you. Okay.
One of the best things I've started to do is called the challenge, which I'll have people challenge me to write something. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a bunch of stuff put together. It could be an idea that they had and they want me to see if I can flesh it out, and then I started doing the double challenge. Was I will find creative people and I'll say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Me and you are going to figure something out. If I get an idea first, I'll write it down, and then you have to go off that idea, and then you have to do something with it. If you get an idea first, then whatever it is that you do, I have to take that and write something from it.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because one of the big challenges I did was with Mike Wilson, and we did this whole rap song about indigenous people.
Facts. It was around Indigenous People Day, and I went to the museum because I needed to study. And Ralph wrote this really cool story, and I had to find a way to turn the story into a song. So that was cool. It worked out pretty well. I like it.
It's a pretty good challenge. I love the having to get creative, having to figure out what to do with something, and I find that I thrive with that type of challenge.
Okay. What song came out of that? The long-breasted hose? Is that the song that you're talking about?
No. I forget the name of the song right now for whatever reason, but it's on my Bandcamp, which is a trmwbk.bandcamp.com. For those who want to check it out.
Don't look at the cameras. I can look at it.
I'll try not to.
They don't like that.
So sorry. It's very. I feel like I'm being watched.
It's just your imagination.
Thanks a lot. That's the end of the episode. This isn't going to go anywhere.
But
We're shutting down Hi-Shelf Studios as well, just because of this.
Yeah, this was all a bad idea.
Closed. I'm going back home.
I got what I needed out of this.
Living back with my parents now.
Really? All right. So, but yeah, so the story, and stop me when I'm messing this up. The story essentially was about a person kind of calling back one of their ancestors. It's actually a little bit of the biblical story of Ezekiel, kind of like in this valley of dry bones kind of thing, right? So and he wrote it a particular way, but I'm comparing it. And so they're there, and it kind of like nature kind of takes on this form and starts to bring back one of these indigenous people, and then sends indigenous people to go and like avenge all the falling brothers and sisters of their own and stuff like that. So it's a very visual story. So finding a way to kind of turn that into a song is very interesting, because I wanted to get I guess a more traditional Native American sounding song to sample. So I did that, which is pretty cool. Thank you. So that was cool. And then his story didn't rhyme, right? Because it wasn't poetry. It was completely prose. There was no rhythm to it. It was just a story. And so I had to find a way to kind of turn every sentence into a bar, which is cool, because it was like what I really did was I took the entire phrase and then tried to add an adjective or any kind of word that would stick to the story, but at the same time make it a rap, which was, a little tricky at first, but then I was like, all right, kind of got this going. So for the most part, I think like almost 100% of his story is actually in the song, just with like certain parts that just helps it rhyme. So it's more addition than it is subtraction, so to speak. So yeah, that was cool. It's like, I think the only time I've quite done a challenge like that per se, like taking someone else's words and turning it to music, but it was really dope.
Yeah, it was a pretty good challenge. It was a lot of fun, and it was a good cause, because, I feel like Native Americans don't really get much respect like they should.
Okay.
I think Disney already did that. It's called Moana. Sorry.
Well, that's better than Pocahontas.
I was waiting for that one.
Pocahontas. I mean, the story of Pocahontas.
You mean Avatar?
Yeah. No, Pocahontas. And then you had The Last Samurai too with Tom Cruise. That was also.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
didn't watch it.
Yeah, same kind of story.
That's unfortunate.
Done plenty of times. I think in the end, I guess all these like stories kind of go back to Shakespeare in some way. All Shakespeare's stories. I mean, like in some way, like they're all updated or modernized, but in the end, they all kind of go back to one and the other. And all of his stories in the end are all copied off of old folk tales anyway.
Well, the person that I studied the most from was Joseph Campbell, and he said all stories have been told.
There you go.
You know, it's just the way you're going to tell them.
Yeah.
Mad deep. But yeah, so you can see that episode on Bitten Apple TV on YouTube, because that's where they actually release every episode.
Yeah, so when we did the thing, I released it as an episode so I can showcase what I wrote and then showcase the song he made.
Oh, very nice. All right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
What? How did you get into Joseph Campbell? From writing or just from some other life?
Actually, I was a young kid watching Channel 13.
Enough said. That's everybody got into it. Right? Did you get the tote bag? Did you give me money?
I wish. Yeah, so I got the interviews that they did with Joseph Campbell. Fantastic interviews. If you can actually find them on DVD now, and I usually put them on and leave them in the background, because that's exactly what started me going down the route of mythology.
Okay.
I'm a big myth finder, studier.
Can I
whatever you
interject
want
here?
to say.
So Bitten Apple TV now has this new show. Their intern had an idea.
Oh, okay, that's right.
This is an anime called Fate. And a lot of the characters from that anime are based on mythology and historical stuff, right? And since he's such a geek for that stuff, and the guy named Nat, who's the intern there, he's such a geek for that, and Cadmo, the other person, is such a geek for all that stuff, they have a show where they show the image of one of the characters from the show who are based on the mythological character, and they have to figure out who it is with a couple of hints. So Nat will read off like 1 or 2 facts about the character, and this guy in 2 seconds figures it out. It's ridiculous. Paul Bunyan was like a weird, skinny white girl, and like he just heard the first fact of her. He was like, Paul Bunyan. I don't know how, but Paul Bunyan.
No. I said it in the show. I say it now. No.
Yeah.
No. You have to see these images of these fake characters from this anime. And they say that they are these characters, but they look nothing like that. Then Nat's like, well, if you look at this and this and this, yes, if you do look at that and that, I can see why they went in that direction with it. But no.
Yeah, but it's just really impressive because like he's talking about his interest in that and the way this guy was like, it was like lightning round for like one of those, like it was just ridiculous. So they're going to have that, I guess that
It
one
should be
of those
soon. I think Nat's editing now, which is what he does.
Yeah, so I just had to throw that in there. Like when he says he loves mythology, if you talk to this guy about this stuff, if you have mythological questions, go ham, because this guy goes in.
And it was funny because Joseph Campbell led to Carl Jung because Joseph was inspired by Carl, you know, and that led me into psychology and the psychology of the story, and you know, because everything is interconnected. And if you're going to write something, you're going to write something on the journey that the hero takes, or the journey that we take as people to become what we're going to become, or why we're doing what we're doing.
I think it's time for a quick little break. We'll be right back.
Huh? What is this? Huh? How dare you? You want to fight? The engineer said no. Auto-tune. We fight. You like my recording technique, eh? Hi-Shelf Studio, Queens, Long Island City. We have top gear, low price, professional production. You don't believe me? Now you die. Ah!
Are we?
We are, yeah.
Oh, okay,
and we're
yeah.
back.
We are back. It is Ralph, Zach, and Giancarlo. We're back here discussing things that we were discussing. What were we discussing?
You know how we do what we do.
The hero's journey.
Yes, that stuff.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that Hollywood does is they go, oh, let's put that, and that together, and it's a movie.
Right.
And like, well, but why is the hero doing that?
Right.
Why is the villain doing that? Oh, because the villain's evil. But why is the villain evil? You know, there are people who are evil. Don't get me wrong. They're pure evil, whatever. But most people started the hero's journey and became the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Or they think they're the hero, but they're the villain.
Right. Yeah.
Thanos.
You can tell with story. It's funny when people are just like, we'll just mash something together. And you can tell when they do it because it's, if you're trying to find something, I mean, if you don't care and you're just like sitting sideways on the couch eating chips, it could be like an action movie or whatever.
Exactly.
But if something has more dimension to it, you'll almost unconsciously be drawn into it because there'll be so many little subtleties that reflect reality that you can't help but resonate with something. And then there's a lot of movies that I really, really like that are shitty movies, but there's something true in it that I was just like, yeah, that's my shit. And then I'll watch somebody else, they're like, this is horrible. I'm like, this is like the essence of the mankind coming from the earth and is shaking his fist at God, and God destroys him. And he's like, it's Weekend at Bernie's too. I was like, you don't see it like I see it. Yeah.
But it's true though, because that's the whole thing of art. You know, we always make fun, you know, because I'll write something. And sometimes I'm just writing whatever. Oh, so why did you make the character's suitcase blue in this scene? It just stands out so much. Is it because, you know, the depression of the character was so engrossing that you just wanted to showcase how deeply he felt that depression? I'm like, I like blue.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or you're just like, yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I've done that before. Like, oh my God, how did you know what I was thinking?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. It's interesting that people will always see themselves. They never see anyone else.
No, they don't.
You know?
It's like, oh my God, I feel like you wrote this about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I did. Hey.
In a way, like kind of like with tarot cards. I mean, they're a lot of fun. I've known some folks that really like get into like, right now my Jupiter is aligned with, and you know, and their palmistry, and it's just like okay, like that's too much. But there is something like fun in being able to do like a little spread and read like what the prompts are about the spread, and then just kind of being like, okay, like where in my life do I see this prompt about about this particular person, this particular action, where I am in life. And it's kind of a fun way to also like just kind of reflect and maybe even like think of a means to further yourself, like off of like what you're working with, because no matter what, in like any spread that you get, you're always going to be able to like to figure out how it pertains to you. And I think we kind of do that with the stories and like where we kind of pinpoint ourselves.
You find a character that relates to you or a situation that relates to you. That's very true. Yeah.
I think it's important also to point out that Hi-Shelf doesn't endorse demonology or the occult. I'd like to repudiate everything he said, kids. Blasphemy is not cool.
Play it backwards.
Oh, this is awkward.
you
So,
hand you under the
Giancarlo.
table is not
Pedophilia.
awkward.
Yes or no?
No. Giancarlo, would you date an older woman was the question?
Yeah. You gotta stop revealing these are premeditated questions, man.
Cut it out. Just cut it out.
Yeah, Giancarlo. Would you date an older woman?
And when we say older, we don't mean 10.
I'm sorry. Would you have a relationship with an older woman?
Not
Yeah.
like 10 years
No.
older.
I don't mean one that like lets you skim the pool and then live there for free. I mean an actual relationship.
Someone like 80.
Yeah.
Yeah? You got no problems?
Someone like 80?
Yeah.
What? This is his question now.
Whoa. Okay.
Well, how do you define older woman from? What's the age
Exactly.
range?
What's
Like a
the
year
age
older or
I'm like
like
10 years older. But
10 years older.
I mean 80 is like you're an
Well, how
older
old are
lady
you?
at that point. You're not really dating.
26.
You're 26, so 36-year-old woman.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's plenty of times where it's just like you meet someone, they're like, oh my gosh, like this lady's like in her mid 40s or like even 50s. I'm just like, this woman's absolutely gorgeous, and the maturity, like too, like 30 years of experience on you, and like in just the elegance, it's just like,
Wow, so this has happened before.
Wow.
yeah, man.
He's like reliving it.
I'm
He's
just
like,
like, it's about women that are my age.
Yeah,
I'm like, I
yeah.
haven't said elegant in years.
I totally, I've like recognized that like too. Not from a very, very young age. I think like early on, like in college, I was like, yeah, I totally am down with older women.
Okay.
For sure. I don't know. Let's see what I was laughing about. I
hey.
think there's something strong in admitting that.
You're a strong man, okay?
I'm brave. I'm brave.
Okay.
Why not? Are you guys? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Well, I'm forced to now. At the age I am, I have to be with older women. It's creepy.
so would it be older women or would it be women
Your age.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I guess the barometer is that I'm old now, so they're all older women.
Ask me this question again when I'm his age, and then
Okay.
we'll see what.
Okay, so
Yeah, no, I
how
mean,
about
fuck no.
the opposite way then? Would you date a younger woman?
No, not me.
You
I know a
wouldn't
lot of
date-
guys who would, but no.
You wouldn't date a woman 10 years younger than you.
Not again.
Not again.
Ooh, okay. There's a story there.
Okay.
There's a couple stories.
Ooh.
All from that, I learned exactly what I need to know, and I think I also might have to make my decision based on that too. It's like, oh, okay. Thank you for saving me.
I don't know what exactly it is. Because I know there's a lot of dudes that just like it's almost kind of uncomfortable how they will not be attracted to any woman over a certain age, and I don't.
I've met a couple of those.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But I just yes, it could depend on the chick. That's not but that's not as common as you would think for me.
Yeah, I got you.
But I just the idea of it's fun in the beginning, showing somebody something they don't know. But after a while, it's a lonely place to
I know
be.
what you're
You know what I'm
talking about,
saying?
yeah.
And also, if you were sort of, and I'm going to say this over and over again until somebody finally lets me know what this word is. I used to think the word was solipsism, but it's not. The definition being the unconscious assumption that other people see the world the way you do. I don't have to be with someone who sees the world exactly the way I do, but I can't be explaining the fucking world to somebody all the time either. You know what I
And
mean?
that's like your struggle with younger women, you find.
And me.
So, it's not so much like, hey, look at this movie. You were only a kid when this came out, and I was a grown man. It's not about that.
That's
but
just
it's
a weird way to start a conversation in general.
All right, sorry. Here's this movie that I don't know. Sometimes you just again, it could be me, but it's just I have a high value on people who have a sort of emotional Rolodex to draw from.
Okay.
And I don't want to help you in every situation that life comes about. I'd like to see you take care of it yourself. That's
You like
sexy
to feel like
me.
you're with an equal. And what's funny is I find that I have a similar issue. Like like most women around my age, and I'm 30 now, so that's like still pretty problematic. And I'm just like, yeah, no, you should be able to figure this out. Like, you know, like asking for help or needing assistance in certain things in the world, or just like whatever the case is fine. But I find that people, even at my age, not that they should have to work figure out, because Lord knows I don't, but the simplest things seem to be really difficult for some ladies I meet. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
See, that's why I don't want to be too hard and fast on this, that, and the other, because I think that there's something happening right now with Western, particularly American people of a certain age, would be their late 20s and early 30s. They're not coming together emotionally, intellectually, the way a couple generations before of the exact same age. I mean, with the hippies, you were written off at 30 as being part of the establishment. 30-year-olds now, I wouldn't give the keys to my fucking car. You know what I mean? And it's just everyone's sort of holding on to this adolescence that doesn't represent anything to them anymore.
I think a large problem is that we're allowed to stay younger longer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's when individuality goes overboard, because like now you're not taking on any responsibility, which isn't building any character, which isn't turning you into anybody.
I know a lot of people who don't have basic like basic adult skills. So
Right.
I'm completely in agreement with you. I'm just like, how don't you know how to do that?
So if I'm not into a chick now that's in her, say, mid-30s, it's not her age. It's because you're worthless, bitch. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, take me as I am. You ain't shit. You ain't done nothing with yourself.
I have
There's
a
nothing
huge problem
to do.
with the take me as I am thing. Like the older I get, the bigger the problem gets. It's like you need to be
should've-
somebody.
Yeah. Be
like
something.
you need to be someone worth me being around.
Yeah,
So,
cultivate yourself. Every
Yeah.
other animal on the planet does it.
yeah.
Do it.
Like
you
every
know?
year you should be growing in some kind of direction. You should be doing better in some kind of way. You should know more things.
Right. Well, life used to force you into that.
Yeah.
Now we have this ability to be, unencumbered by things and unmoved, and so we don't develop. There was a guy who wrote a book. I can't remember what it was, and because it starts out like he's another one just picking on millennials, but he's not. He's working in these universities and with these kids, and he's like, there seems to be this unfortunate thing that occurs where you get a lot of like a war will happen. And then after the war, because life just shuts down when there's a war and everyone just tries to survive.
Yeah.
And then you rebuild, and then you eventually get to this place of what's the word? You affluence and comfortability. And then the generation that grows up when things are good are useless, and then some other crisis has to happen in order to pull something out of them.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
They
It's
didn't have the toughening up experience.
Right, and
they
I
didn't
think
have the
we're
bully beating up on
definitely
them.
going through that now. And I think of we have a phrase called first world problems, which just shows you that everyone collectively is regarding things that are important that are really not that important.
Yeah.
And they're building ideas on top of ideas. It's like, I can't, social media is just full of people taking on somebody else's gripe. I know more white people defending black people's issue than black people. You know what I mean? It's just like, you gotta just,
Well, the internet is such that's like Gutenberg Press version 2.0. That the Gutenberg Press, they say that's the end of an era. That's the beginning of a new era, because now human communication is so now widespread. I mean, before we used to take ages to recreate pamphlets. Boom, that's just being done and being distributed all over. And now with the internet, that's just that marks the end of human era, the era of 20th century, and just the great war, this whole thing where humanity had to fucking come together. It's otherwise these guys are gonna take over the fucking world, and we all have to stop. I mean, this is the truest sense of good versus evil, and we don't have that. Everything is just morally ambiguous. Everything is gray now, and we're just kind of muddying through the waters, and everyone's kind of trying to search not even search they think they know that they want to be good. They know they want to be on that right side of history.
But the irony is, if you take a hard line and say something's concrete, you become the evil.
Yeah. Yeah, because
It's nothing's evil or good until you say there's evil or good.
Because all of a sudden now, Nazis are like, "Hey, you can't say I'm evil." I'm like, "What? What?"
Ralph, I noticed that your shirt is red and black and a bit white. The same colors that are on the Algerian flag. I mean, Albanian.
Yeah, you want to answer for that? I mean, are you appropriating Albanian
I think also
culture?
that people are getting offended for everything now.
Yeah.
It was a meme that I found recently. It goes, I grew up with Mel Brooks. And that's why I don't get offended by anything.
Exactly. But even it seems like even being offended by everything is a fake bitch ass move.
Exactly.
Because you're not that smart. You're not a part of that group that you're offended by. Like you have no investment in the culture. You do nothing. You've just decided I'm gonna go with that. You know what I mean? It's just like. And that's the psychological sort of the affluence, the getting lazy. It's just like I'm even taking on ideas I really don't have.
Especially getting like offended at jokes. Like there's one thing to be offended at a person giving a political speech or like giving some public statement. Be like, hey guys, this is what I'm thinking right now, and being like, well, I don't really agree with this, and it kind of like hurts my feelings. It's like, okay, we can have discussion. Like let's figure out like what's the best way to solve the problem of this township here. Like, and we'll figure that out. But like when it's just a person getting up on the stage just trying to like shoot the breeze and trying to make people laugh, and you're like, I'm not even gonna give you silence. I'm gonna go ahead and give you like it's like I don't actually mean this shit.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm seriously want to do this.
I'm not even a comedian, but there's been plenty of times during my shows, right? Because just in general, like sometimes it's just an awkward moment in the crowd, and so I like to dive into it.
Yeah,
right?
I've started discovering like let's just stay here for a minute.
Yeah. So I did a really dope house concert. It was called like Cocoa Butter Nights. It's a very dope house concert, and I really appreciate
Already
them.
offended by the name.
It was so good.
I don't even know why.
It was so good. It's hosted by a black girl who's with a white guy, and they're dope. A house out in Harlem, right? And so I'm doing my set. It's based on my last album where I'm bitching, complaining about my life in 5 songs. So it's a very kind of, I don't want to say dreary, but it's dreary, right? So like the music is chill, it's cool, but I'm bitching, right? So like in between my set, at some point, I'm like, yeah, I hope you guys, maybe close to the end, I'm like, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know, because if you don't like it, I might hurt myself, so I need applause. I need you to show me love. I was like being over the top, but like in this, because like, I said all this depressing shit. So I'm like, you guys have to show me love, because I don't know what's going to happen otherwise. I'm like smiling and everything. And I remember this particular black girl in the audience, and she was cute too, so I felt really stupid for this. I remember a particular black girl in the audience just kind of looked at me and was like, shameful, like the look in her face, and I was like, well, I've done lost everyone. Not one sale, not one song, not one stream. And it was cool. Like there was some people I ended up talking to later, but again, it was just like that moment where I'm like, I said a bunch of really dreary shit, I'm just gonna kind of go with it, and it did not play out well.
Fuck them, it played perfectly. The experiment worked. Yeah, and it's interesting. What Jordan Peterson did something that I thought was on point, where he said there's an abuse of compassion. It's like you're utilizing compassion in the wrong way. You're intellectualizing compassion because there really isn't a need, and you're trying to worry about something that doesn't need to be worried about. And the solution is that everyone else is supposed to, and that's the other part. The other component to that is narcissism. You're insisting that everyone else keep thinking about you. Every move I make has to be some kind of component to how you fucking feel.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't have the right to give yourself permission to have a fucking opinion on what I just said. It's really interesting. Because also when you reverse this on people, they never see when they're in the wrong according to their set of rules.
Yeah.
So that's the first sign of bullshit.
Well, the thing the girl didn't know, now that you say that, sorry. I work in the psychology field, so I work with people with depression and all those other type of issues all the time. And I never had the chance to have that conversation, but now I'm just making fun of those group of people, right? Because that's like the pull of it, so.
Well, it's the same thing. I suffer from depression. I'm the first person to make fun of depression because it's a whole part of the thing you're going to do, because you're going to fight the dragon that's trying to eat you.
Right.
And this is the way I'm going to do it.
You talk it down.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I would say something, and somebody would be like, "Oh my God, how can you say that?" And I'm like, because I suffer from depression, and I understand where this is coming from. And because you suffer from depression, you should know better than anybody else that you shouldn't be talking like that, because it's gonna hurt people's feelings. I'm like, if you have depression, it doesn't matter, because if you have real depression, then it's just a chemical imbalance, and you're going to be hurt no matter what happens.
Exactly.
And if you're depressed about something, then it doesn't matter because you're depressed about something, and I'm not talking about that something.
Meanwhile, the only other actually depressed guy in the room is going like, haha.
And it's funny that she feels that she needs to reset you on the rules of how to be you.
Exactly. One of the big things people always ask me, how can I you're going through your depression, you're going through this thing that how can I help? I'm like, just dude, be yourself. I don't need you to save me. I'm not looking for a superhero. I'm looking for friends who can hang out with me. And the problem is that when you're a depressed person, it's a little hard to deal with people who are depressed. Because they're in their funk, they're in their thing, and what we try to do as people, instead of letting them be in their funk, is like, no, I'm gonna make you happy. I am gonna show you that life is good.
Here are the curtains. Let me just get some sun in here.
Get
that fucking ow.
And then you're like, who's working on whose need now?
Exactly.
You need me to be weak so you can look strong? Like, leave me the fuck alone. Play some goth. I'll be all fine.
Exactly. I always feel the same way. I always feel like, are we making you feel better, or are we making me feel better? Because
Put the Joy
I don't feel
Division
like
back
it's about
on.
me anymore.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is take your, invite your friend out if he wants. If he wants, or he or she wants to come out, they'll come out. If they're out with you, don't try to make them feel whatever you want to make them feel. Let them have their feelings. Talk to them, listen to what they're going to say. But that's the whole thing. Dealing with people who are depressed is very difficult. If you can't handle it, then you can't handle it. But and that's the other thing. Oh, I can handle it. What are you talking about? They get offended because you say something like that, and I'm like, no, not everybody can handle depressed people.
It's true.
If you can't handle it, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, no, go.
It reminds me of and I always, I end up looking like a fucking monster for saying this, but I really can't stand this positive movement. Because it's so fucking fake. It's just language. It's just bumper sticker culture. Because what really annoys me, it isn't even like, oh, leave me alone. You think what bothers me, if you get real down to the core of it, it's a fucking problem. Because first of all, when I'm around positive people, I feel more judged than ever because I'm thinking they're constantly checking a box when I didn't say something positive. Oh, this toast is kind of burnt. Yeah, fuck, sorry, it's burnt. You know what I mean? Or I feel like I don't like this song. Oh, you're always bringing things down. It's just like, it sounds like you've got a problem with negativity. I don't. I'm flourishing in it. And it's, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's not distracting. I don't have a pistol in my mouth. I'm just, but also it's this weird thing. Like, what bothers me is they're always the most unhelpful. Because if you follow this is, I'm not saying it's a reach. For some people, it's very real. Because if you get into this, because what being positive is basically saying is you have the choice not to feel bad about what's happening right now. You're right. You kind of have a little bit of a choice to how you're going to deal with it. It doesn't change it. It doesn't change. Having a better attitude doesn't make the Nazis go away. It may help, and that's Viktor Frankl's book. He is in the concentration camp, and he wrote about, we are ultimately in control of how we deal with the circumstances. Yes. But he was like, I was still in a concentration camp. What? Are you?
I think we gotta take a time for a break.
I was like, I was trying to think of that politician that tapped me on the foot, and I'm just like,
I'm in the middle of something.
Oh man.
No, remember that politician that was in the bathroom stall? That was the gay thing. Yeah. I was trying. I could come up with that first.
Well, all right, we're back and we're taking calls for Ask the Sound Man. You ready for some calls, Sound Man?
Yeah, sure.
Well, all right, we got Josh on the line. Josh, what's your question for the Sound Man?
Yeah, my dad had a gig about a week ago, and we lost a few of our adapters. Like the sound man, he didn't even help us out. Like, it was my impression that you guys said you had the equipment at the club. You guys are supposed to be professionals.
Listen, Listen, you're playing your gig at a music venue, not a music store, all right? It's up to you to have all the things that you need for your performance. Don't rely on our inventory.
Yeah, okay. Last question. Why are soundmen always so miserable, huh? Is it because they're failed musicians?
I get a paycheck. You get drink tickets. Who's the failure, you talentless piece of shit?
If you don't like your job, why don't you just quit?
You know what? I love my job. I just hate the narcissist pieces of shit clientele. That's why.
Yeah, right.
Why don't you go fucking get on to you piece of fucking
You guys like us in town on stage getting the sweet fruit while you live in your Bobby pathetic.
crusty anus, all right?
Yeah, I hate positive people.
That's gonna be the court. That's gonna be the court with him in 10 years. He'd be like, "Look at this video. He's always yelling." The point I just trying to make that like they're never helpful. It's about your mentality, and it's just like it's almost like you being uncomfortable makes them uncomfortable, so they want you to change. And if you follow some of that logic, if you think that my mentality toward things has everything to do with how I feel, then it's not that far of a logical leap to where you're going to decide that if I'm going to feel bad, then it's my fault because I'm not choosing to change my mind. Therefore, you don't have to have empathy or compassion for me because it's my fault I'm here and you can write me off. You have done nothing for me. You've just given me a bunch of fucking philosophy and you've not gotten your hands dirty, helped me with shit. So all this light, but there's no fucking warmth. So to me, being a positive person in that sense is a fucking problem. You're just an asshole who doesn't want to be bothered with real life. And a lot of those people, if you get into most of those people don't have this journey away from horrible shit that they found a way to survive. Most of them just can't handle shit getting dark, and now they've built this whole thought system to keep themselves away from it.
I was about to say the same thing. I'm fine with my darkness. I have no issue with my darkness. My darkness has made me who I am. It's not what's bringing me down. It's not what's holding me back. It's not what's, I am still thinking positive. I still know that I'm going to become a writer. I still know that I'm going to do this. I still know that nothing's stopping me from doing that. Just because I'm in a certain place at a certain point in time doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing. It just means that I am in a bad place at that moment. Especially when it's a chemical imbalance. Because, like you said, you're telling me now that it's not because I have a chemical imbalance. It's because I just want to be depressed.
Right.
And that's one of the other things that pisses me off about people who want to deal with depressed people. It's like, you're doing this to yourself. You just want to be depressed. I'm like, I don't want to. Who the fuck wants to be depressed? I don't want. Have you ever been, and this was the first question that pops into my head. Have you ever been depressed? Do you want to be depressed? Oh, no, but I've gone through this and this and this. Exactly. You don't want to be depressed. You want to get past it. You want to move forward. You want to become something else because you don't want to stay there. That is a very dark place. And if you stay there, something's going to happen.
Right. And your lapel pin isn't fucking helping me.
Exactly.
I mean, I've had even experiences where it's just maybe assessing the situation or making an observation about it, and the positive side is interprets it as negativity, and it's like, did we just hear the same thing? I'm not brooding here. I'm just making but I do think, I've seen ads on the subway about mental first aid, and I don't really have a problem with that. I think if that might be a really I think that's more of a helpful, actual more practical step forward of hey, here's a quick, what we do with CPR, it's a helpful, if you're in a restaurant and see someone choking, it's what if you see someone having a complete panic attack, a mental breakdown, it's here are some of the steps that you can do, so this way you don't exacerbate and make the whole situation explode in your face, but maybe you can help calm the person down a little bit, and if you can kind of all just take quick notes, you don't have to take some intensive college course, just hey, here are the kind of few things you could say. I think that's fine. I don't take that as coddling, and I know what you're talking about, and that is definitely coddling, that sort of positive culture, that does create weakness, and it just kind of, it's like wearing a truss. I had to wear one for a bit after I had hernia, but the thing is, though, the doctor said don't rely on that, because if you do, then your body's going to be so used to having that truss that when you don't have it, it's your guts are just going to be ready to spill out. So try to not to be wearing that truss when you can. Just maybe in the healing stage, fine. Just don't rely on that.
And I've met those positive people, the real positive people, the ones because a lot of these fake positive people, the real positive people will tell you, move forward. You're going through this. You're going to get past this.
Right.
Don't stay in that funk. Do something else. Now, this is good advice. You're positive. You're telling me to stay in a certain place. It's not forget about what you're going through. It's more of just uplift yourself.
Right.
Yeah. That's a different type of positive.
Right.
Those people I can listen to.
Right.
Because they're actually picking you up. They're not
giving you something to work with.
Exactly.
They're not saying snap out of it.
They actually did snap you out of it in a sense. They told you something. They were oh, okay. like that. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, but that's the whole thing. You know, you have these depressed people. You don't want to, because a lot of the times the positive people make the depressed people more depressed. You know, because you're not pulling them out of the hole, you're kicking them back in.
You're foaming up cynicism more of it because you're like, fuck, you know, now I'm faced with a solution that's not working. Fuck, you know?
Right.
And it's funny because I was trying to remember who this woman was that I saw was talking about it, but she was saying that these days it's a little weirder now too, because now people are avoidant of so many real life things that now depression is taking on a meaning it's not supposed to fucking mean. Like there is a normal range of human grief. If your spouse leaves you, if your child dies, if you're not showing signs of depression, something's fucking
problem,
mentally wrong with you. But we won't permit anyone to have a bad day. You know
Right
what
away,
I mean?
he's like, get over it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
And the pharmaceutical industry jumps right in there.
Oh, no.
That's who it was. It was Marianne Williamson, my girlfriend. She was saying that the problem with the pharmaceutical industry is that they have older too. You know, they've got a pill for everything now.
Yeah.
If your boyfriend leaves you, here's a pill. You know, if you fail the test, here's a pill.
That was one of my issues when I went to see the psychiatrist. The first thing was, so we're going to get you on this and this and this. I'm like, oh, what? But I figured you like want me to start, you know, and I'll say the difference is that the psychiatrist will go in the drug dimension and the psychologist will try to listen and work something through, you know. But he sent me to the psychologist too, you know, and then, well, that's a whole other issue. But I always feel it's the same thing. It's the rapists.
No.
Because that's what they're doing.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that all of them are like that, but I find that most of them, or a good majority of them, they're trying to rape you. It's not therapy. It's like, oh, you walk in and they go, I know what's wrong with you. I haven't said shit.
Right.
How do you know what's wrong with me? I haven't said a thing.
Right. Well, they also don't make any money if you're fixed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it bugs me out that, you know, the first thing they want to do is fill you full of drugs.
Ain't that something? Yeah.
I understand you're trying to help me, but you don't know what's going on yet.
They got sponsors, baby. They got to.
Know the problem is.
Yeah. But that's really unfortunate when you've got these pharmaceutical companies that are, you know, it's got to come down to money, right? Why would I offer you something that I know you might not need unless there's some kind of kickback for me in it? Like, why would I go into, like with this recording studio, why would I set all this up to go into business to recording people? And the first thing I say to a client is, you don't really need to make a record. Like, I'm out of work. You know what I mean? It's just like, and they come in and it's like, why I would want to work with you to get somewhere.
Like you could do this on your phone in your bedroom.
Unless there was something more valuable about you taking the pill than me having you come back.
Yeah.
See, like if I have an issue and you know I have an issue, but that's something totally different. Now you know I have an issue and I need to take this pill.
Yeah.
But that's
like you have an
different.
artist who comes in and you know they can't sing. You're like, you need lessons.
Right.
Come back in a couple of months.
Exactly.
See, that would be your prescription.
That's right. Right.
So I'm mostly listening because I consider myself a positive person. I think all of you have gone through that with me in some kind of way. So I apologize. I'm not okay. Good.
You're not leaving the room fucking unscarred, bro. Be all positive as you want.
Well, I was watching. As you guys, I told you two that I was watching BoJack Horseman, and he's a really shitty person.
Yeah.
But there's the episode where he starts doing the positive stuff, and everything around him contradicts that, right? His friends are kind of thrown off because like he's not acting like himself. To like that's not even you entirely. He gets on his phone with his mom when he's about to shoot a scene for the movie that he's going to be in. And she has read his book. There's a whole plot to it. But essentially, she tells him that he's a broken person, that he gets his brokenness from his parents and stuff like that. And strangely enough, it's the positivity he needed to do what he needed to do, because he accepted who he was instead of stop trying to be someone he wasn't, which I thought was very interesting from that perspective, right? So a lot of these super positive people aren't dealing with their issues. And that phone call from his mom allowed him to finally deal with that issue. It's like, you know what? This is who I am. Let me love and accept myself.
What's funny is that, you know, if a positive person, one of the ones we're talking about, would just see that and go, why you give him such negativity?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny because like as soon as I saw the scene, as a positive person, I think I am. As soon as I saw the scene, I was like, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, that's who you are. You don't have to be that person entirely, but you also don't have to be the complete contrast of that person. And then when you were talking about the mental health first aid, I saw that on the train with my supervisor where we were heading downtown once. And that's one thing that we do with our clients in our field. Like we just want to hear them talk. You know what I mean? I'm not always like, hey, did you go to your doctor? Did you take your pills? I'm like, well, what's up? So, oh, this, that, and the other happened. I'm a little sad about that. It's like, oh man, tell me about it. What's going on? Like literally, people just want to be heard, and that's like the easiest and best thing to do for people out there who want to help someone.
And that's what I think is funny is people think that people have just become more complex. Like no, there's a breakdown of the family.
Yeah.
People don't have friends. You have no one to. All a therapist is someone you're fucking talking to.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that there isn't people who need a little coaching, and I'm not making a generalization. But for the most part,
someone there to hear you.
It's the same as a bar. It's a stranger to listen to my shit because I just got to get it out.
Yeah.
That's all. You know what I mean? It's like if, you know, it's our culture that does it. We heighten this individuality thing to the point where we really need each other and we're not going those routes. And so just everything's misfiring.
I completely understand because like when I was working in the cafe, as the barista, you start hearing things. People start talking to you. You know, especially when you have the same customers over and over. You know, they'll come in. Oh man, my day was horrible. So tell me, as you're making the drink, and they get it out. They get it. Oh, Ralph, thank you. I appreciate that. That was really nice of you. I was like, I didn't do nothing.
Right.
You did everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, you come by, you want to talk, just talk, go right ahead. Because one of the things we do, and it's funny. It's not. We do it as a community. We tend to shut people off. We want to talk. We don't want to hear. We don't want to listen. And sometimes your friend needs somebody to listen. Just listen. It's like you said, we're all looking for that person. We're looking for that connection. We're looking. All this stuff is gone now. You don't have it in your family. You don't have that many. You have friends.
You don't make close friends.
Right. It's. And that's what you need. You need somewhere to talk. Sometimes, like a radio show, and when people call in, they'll get it off like that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's true.
I think also I don't know, to recommend for any viewers, just like productivity and writing, and writing takes so many forms. It takes forms of writing music. It takes forms
that's how I get all my shit out.
And a huge one is memes. And that's one of the one of the more accessible ones. And that's like I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of articles about depression memes, and that it's just this way that the people just kind of cope with it, and then the folks receiving these memes kind of relate, and they joke about, and they're able to just kind of laugh at their their misery. Pain is a better word for it. And that's and in a way the memes is a really condensed form of writing it in a way that where you could just be boom, get it out, boom, get it out, boom, and it doesn't have to be a saga. It's just one panel and a few lines, and that's it. It says all. It's
a comic page is really what it is.
And that helps for some people. That just helps.
It goes back to what we were saying about writing earlier. It's something to get stuff off, get it out. And I say the same thing all the time. And a lot of the ways I feel I help myself is through my writing. I get out what's in there. It may not be the way you think it is, or you may read something that I wrote and go, "This has nothing to do with depression," but it does. Because I know why I wrote it. And again, it goes back to that whole blue. Why did I write it? You may never know, but you're going to have your reasoning to read what I wrote and go, oh, this is nice. I got this and I got that. But why did I write it is a whole different reason.
Yo, that relates to me as a musician so much, because a lot of my songs, a lot of people hear and they're like, yo, I felt this, that, and the other. I was like, really? Because I was just really sad that day. And I just need to write. So,
I like to think of every now and then, with breakup songs. I was listening to a Diana Ross, Love Is Here and Now You're Gone. That's a really great song. And it's the first time listening to it, it's quite obvious. It's okay, he's left her. They seem to have gotten together, and now he's off. And then I started to think of it in different ways. Maybe he didn't leave her. It's what if the guy just Died? What if he got in a car accident?
Exactly.
And and it's not her being upset at me, oh, you left me. Just being we finally fucking found love is here. Yeah, we got it. Oh, and you get a phone call, and then but there's that might not be it. There was. I was in middle school, and there was a short story that in one of the textbooks that I had us read. There's a short story called My Father's Waltz, and something along the lines, it's a short prose, and I just thought it was kind of pretty much I think that there's a mention of the father being intoxicated, and I stuck with my interpretation. I was like, literally, like the dad's just a happy drunk, and he's just like playing with this kid. But at one point, the teacher like brings up, well, like what if it's actually abuse? And all the kids are like, oh, no. And I just kind of stuck with it. I was like, it just kind of seems like he's a happy drunk. Like he's just like he's just coming and be like, hey, it's all right. Like, and it was like, how could you think that? Like, it's quite obvious. Like, and then the teacher who proposed the idea, like maybe it's this, is like, well, no, not necessarily. It's not like it's definitely this. Like it could still be that. And we had a talk with about that after being the teacher. And he just kind of was like, the fact that you stuck with their own interpretation and just kind of kept that to yourself. Like everyone was really quick to just like decide. And there was a student in the room who like once the interpretation of abuse came, like it really like hit him hard, like because and you could tell he had history like that. And so it just kind of made me like to what your experience is like what you're going to be able like to pull out of it and extract from it, and these little cues that you can pick up on with anything. And that's why we kind of see ourselves a lot in stories.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that was at a time when individualism was encouraged in the public school system, huh? I'd be like, Giancarlo, we noticed you had your own opinions about this. We'd like you to report to Office 405.
That's how it is now. Who said you could think?
The tests were like if the kids ace the test, they get sent away. Does anyone remember read that short story?
Oh no, but now I want to.
I think it was like in middle school or high school, but like the whole point is that these kids are made to like take a test, and then if you do get the passing grade, like then you are sent away or something.
Because you're not fit for the society type of thing.
Yeah. You're not dumb enough, or
you're gonna be a problem later. Yeah, there are some artists that have a policy of never telling people the motivations for what they write because they want other people to see themselves in it.
Exactly.
And if once you tell them, it
Donald
ruins the
Glover,
whole
This
thing.
Is America. He kept being interviewed about that video, and he was like, "Yeah, you know what it means." Like he would not explain his. He's like, "What do you think of this?" Like, he would not talk about it, which I respected him a lot for doing.
But then Ayn Rand, she's like, "Don't be full of shit. You should know as an artist why you're doing it. Don't put a stripe on the wall and be like, yeah, it's heavy duty, right?" And they're like, no, So yeah.
But I feel like it's the same thing. I feel like if the stripe on the wall means something to you.
Right, but she's talking about when people who literally
I
don't
know.
do shit.
Every kid's a Jackson Pollock.
Yeah.
By any chance, let's go to the thinning, the story you were talking about.
The what?
The thinning.
For the one about the test?
Yeah.
I
There's
think
apparently a very similar web series that came out in 2016 where it's set in a dystopian future which population control is enforced through a school aptitude test.
I don't think. I think it was just called the exam or the test.
Okay, but I think that's funny. It might have been.
Okay, but it definitely could have been like. I mean, I think the lottery. That's more well known. I think that's probably inspired quite a bit of shows and.
So I had someone to ask that. Please continue.
Research.
Pedophilia. Are we for it? Are we against it?
And that's our time, folks.
Has anyone seen the trailer for this movie Hustlers?
I didn't see the trailer, but I literally saw an ad on my way over here.
I just kind of find it. I just kind of find it funny that like this movie is coming out like and it's about strippers getting men drunk enough to not exactly take advantage of, but I mean at least swindle them out of some money. And even though Cardi B was kind of under fire for a bit,
and now she's in the movie,
and then which is almost kind of like a rubbing it in the faces. And maybe this is not direct correlation, but I just thought what if there was the line is like, you want them drunk enough to give you their credit card, but sober enough to sign a check. And I was like, what if we just like with these very ambiguous, not even ambiguous, like kind of like things where if it wasn't a story in a hot movie with the biggest stars, like you kind of be like. It's kind of not cool behavior like to do like, but Hollywood. So we're like, yeah, you go like ladies. But it's like, what if we did that with it's like, and now Pedo starring Kevin Spacey. You want them to feel mature enough to go through with it, but just playful enough that you think you're just going doctor. Like, are you gonna be down with that? No, everyone's gonna be like, "What the fuck? What the fuck? Why are we doing what?" And that's exactly kind of how I was when after seeing all these articles with Cardi B, and then they're just like, "Guess who's starring in this movie about getting men drunk and stealing their money?" Cardi B. It's like, oh, she not only does she not like get any reparations, she gets a fucking movie.
Wow.
Well, wait, now when's this movie coming out?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna look it up.
But is it new?
It's a new film.
It's really, yeah, I mean, the
And
trailers are all over
how
on
long
YouTube.
ago did she say this on
Not
the web?
more
Not
than
even
a
a
year.
year, right?
No, like a while back.
No, it hasn't been that long.
No,
No,
yeah,
it's not. It's
Less
been
than a year.
roughly
It was
a year, around a year.
Like I think it was like a while back that she had it on Twitter that she was talking about it, but it wasn't until the recent years that people
this
were
is
like
true.
bringing it up,
This
being
is
like,
like a
"Yo,
2015
look at this."
tweet,
Okay,
but
so
then
she did
recently-
say like, because no, in my sick mind, I was just like, I wonder if they were like trying to promote the movie while they were shooting it, and they just made her say shit and make it look like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean? Because
That's some
did you ever
Blair
watch the
Witch
news and you're
level.
just like, I didn't even get high. This is fucking weird.
It's all 13th.
with production, I mean, like the amount of time it takes to make a movie and with
September 13th.
production. I'm sorry.
September 13th, when you guys want to go see it, we'll go watch it together.
Oh, yeah.
Not gonna happen.
I think you're trying to hustle.
Yeah. Oh, see what he did? This guy's a writer. You
call that
got it, bro. You got it.
But then there is a movie called The Hustle with Anne Hathaway and Rebecca Wilson, I think her name is.
Oh, Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, but
I went to see that.
that's a remake of Distinguished Gentleman.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a pretty dope comedy. I haven't seen it yet, but I just like those two actors.
I like Rebel Wilson. She's fine.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, I think like a movie like that would have definitely have been like down. Like I mean, like I would have been like, oh, cool, this like seems exciting, like in a different part of life. But the way that now culture is and like the climate and like the way with Me Too and everything is just like very, very, you're on eggshells with everything. For them to then just like be a movie then like praising this sort of behavior is like, do you keep to your own standards?
Yeah.
At all?
They don't.
Yeah. No,
With that
they
said-
don't, because it's titillation and that's what sells. And then if there's something else is anger, well, that sells too. And victimhood, that sells too. So you don't have to be consistent in any position as long as you're selling what everyone.
Buy the plushie.
Yeah.
The plushie.
Yeah, it's funny though too, and this it's hard for me to interpret this because I can't tell if I'm getting old, or I've just rejected the culture, or if there's a problem. Because I've seen a lot of movies that have come out lately where I do not identify with the main character because I think the main character is a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't understand. Am I supposed to empathize here? Or like there's that movie Closer. Did you ever see that? With Jude Law and Natalie Portman and a couple other... and it was just like... I watched it. I could not understand what the fuck was happening because they were all sort of cheating on each other, but at different times. And then like it was all really uncomfortable, dark shit. And part of me is like, well, I've got to applaud the director because he definitely made me feel. He made me feel really fucking angry and uncomfortable. But I'm like, it's making me angry and uncomfortable because these are not heroes. But they're just plain enough to be people in real life that you would never make friends with because they're bad choice people. Right. You know what I mean? So at the end of the movie, I'm just like, was this a thought experiment or was I supposed to understand the fucking outcome? You know what I mean? It was just really odd. So I'd like to revisit it again, but I don't want to spend an hour and a half around those characters again. You know what I'm saying? And then you just watch some of these movies, especially like the gangster shit or the stripper shit, and you're like, this is all bad. You're leaving out a very real reciprocity, moral component to this type of attitude toward life. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, it's bad enough, like they used to say, well, you know, when the bad guy gets away, it's just like you're not really telling the full story of ethics and morality.
Yeah.
But when you've got like strippers cheating on their husbands, but it's okay because she's making $1,000 a night instead of $10, and you don't show her suffering from her bad choices, the movie just ends. You're just like, okay, that's a movie to take the family. You know, it's like, what?
I think I can be a stripper.
Yeah, but like, yeah, but I can't tell anymore because no one else in the theater is saying, like, shaking their head. So I'm like, am I just getting old?
Go to the theaters
You know what I mean?
with us.
What's that?
I said again, go to the theaters with us because we'll be there. Like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I've just rejected the culture, or I'm getting old, or just people are just not willing to say that there are parameters in ethical behavior. You know what I mean?
Because like horror movies, I've always understood the concept that, you know, you don't want, sometimes, you know, in order for a horror movie to be a horror movie, you know, the bad guy has to win. But I feel like they go in that direction more now. I don't see like it's very rare now that there's a hero and the hero wins.
Right.
I feel like now it's like, oh my God, he's killing people. Oh my God, he killed everybody. I'm like, okay, so did we learn a lesson?
Right.
Did something happen? I'm not gonna knock all the movies to end like that, but I'm saying sometimes you want to feel good when you come out of the movie. I'm like, damn man, that guy kicked the monster's ass and we won.
Right.
Now you leave the theater going, fuck man, we're all doomed.
Right. Yeah, you don't see it tie into anything that's positive, I guess.
Or meaningful, not necessarily even positive.
Or meaningful, or depthful, or profound, or
I'm
real.
thinking about what you're saying. I'm thinking about Cabin in the Woods, right? But Cabin in the Woods is a bizarre and meaningful twist to it in a weird kind of way, because like they were testing all these things that first off, mankind made I guess a commitment to the old gods, right? And so they were bound to those commitments, and these dumb kids were smart enough to kind of reverse all of that. So there's a meaningful thing to it, but we all die anyway. Like, you get what I mean? Like
I mean, as in all the old horror writers and horror directors of the time were committed to appeasing this sort of audience, and Joss Whedon and his brave team decided to make a call to be like, we're gonna try to do it different now. And the result was everyone was like, this movie fucking rocks. This is great.
No, it's an outstanding movie. But that's also the thing, because you have the basic plot, stupid teenagers kind of going in the cabin, just being stupid and horny and stuff. But then as they're like being tricked into dealing with these different forms of evil, which is a government mandated thing, right? Because the government's controlling how people are going on their vacations and dying at the hands of old gods just so they could be sacrificed to fucking titans. Like, it's just, but
it's an interesting movie.
Yeah, but like that's the plot of like, so every horror story is that movie. So a group of people go somewhere, they touch the wrong thing, everyone dies or someone dies, whatever.
Yeah, the
final certain
girl,
amount of
the fool. They play that.
It was pretty cool because they even used the way that you break it down with characters. It's the hero character,
the pretty girl or the slut.
The person who's the nerd who's not having sex. They have.
But it's funny because I say that they didn't win, but actually they did. Because if you remember the ending, and I'm totally ruining this for you, I apologize. Do you want to see this? Should I keep going?
I was gonna, but fuck it now. No, people have been telling me for years and I never got around to it. So
okay, cool. Well,
no, just don't hold up the conversation. Go ahead.
All right. So basically, what happens is at the end they realize that if they sacrifice themselves in the moment, they would have did the minimum and everything would be okay. But instead they're like, fuck it. They're like, how long has this been a game? I'm tired of this. And so of course the entire world gets destroyed, but it's a sacrifice they make in the sense of like the human spirit, like one of those type of things. Like, we're greater than your bullshit and we're not going to be slaves to your bullshit, so you might as well kill us all.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, but it's very few movies that do that.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean. It didn't necessarily be, yay, but you've
there's a meaning.
There's something there.
There's some meat. Yeah. Well, they used to have this expression called the moral to the story.
Yeah, there you go.
Fucking nothing anymore.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, and well, like even with even though I know it's a multi-episode thing. I didn't see Avengers Endgame, but the one before that, the Infinity War.
Yeah.
Because it was funny.
I love the way that ends.
I'm watching the ending, and he's just sitting there. Thanos is just like, he's done chopping wood for the day, and he's just reflecting on his. And in my mind, I was like, it would be awesome if they ended it here, but they're not going to.
Yeah, I was so
and then it
happy
ended.
about
I was
that
like,
ending.
oh shit, that was for real. But what was good, it wasn't just like, hey, I killed everyone, yay me.
Yeah.
They put that thing where you could tell his conscience was still like he was totally resolved about what he did.
Yes.
And that's what made it good,
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool. We had those
also, like
smile.
Ralph was saying earlier, he was like the hero in his journey.
Right.
So even
absolutely
though,
necessary. Yeah.
He got what he wanted, but he didn't get what he wanted, and you saw all that confusion.
Right.
While everyone else is like we're in complete despair. So it's like that great kind of. I loved it. I thought that was such a brilliant way to do it.
Speaking of it, most of the times what happens is that the people who are doing these things, it's very few people that go, I am evil. Most people go, I'm going to do this and this and this, and it's for the greater good.
Like
Right.
Magneto, who was one of my favorite bad guys, because he's not even really
the
a
way
bad guy.
Stan Lee set that up was that Magneto was Malcolm X and Professor X was
Dr. King.
Dr. King. Because he wanted to show the fight, the struggle. Because one of them is by any means necessary. We're going to get this accomplished, and the other one's like, if we are good people, we can change the world. which is one of the reasons Stan Lee is amazing.
Maggie is a shit.
Yeah.
Love Maggie though.
It's funny. I remember when I was younger, a long time ago, me and a friend of mine were trying to come up with we were going to come up with a new superhero and try to market it and get in the comic book game. And I was just like, no matter what I wrote, it's like, it's already fucking been done. It's like, it's so difficult to come up with a new. I was just like, look at this Stan Lee. I'm like, how the. But you really struck gold. That one sliver of mineral, then that's all there. Anyone else is copying you, you know? I was like, damn.
See, but the whole thing with Stan Lee is that he decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take real people and give them superpowers. We're going to take people with problems and give them superpowers. So now you open up because before it was like these perfect heroes. Now you got these people like Spider-Man. Nerdy kid, he's having all these issues, being bullied. Then he becomes Spider-Man, and then he has to fight, to be Spider-Man and still be that kid, Peter Parker, because with great power comes great responsibility, and he learns his lesson really badly because he doesn't stop the criminal. Uncle Ben is killed, and that's a huge lesson. Being able to do good and choosing not to do good. And then because of that, you suffer the consequences. And that's what I feel like that's where society is suffering now, is the whole concept of you're able to do good, you're not doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's, if you want to look at it, that's one of the greatest sins.
Right.
The ability to help people and not do it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think with our society, my critique, with that would be the things that they're obsessing about needs helping doesn't fucking need your help. You are skipping over a lot of real need to address these the problems of the day or whatever's in fashion to be a problem, which for 99% of the people talking about other people's problems, it's not their fucking problem.
No.
As though everyone needs you to fucking help them. It's like I had said something a couple weeks ago. I'd put it on, and if I put I love chocolate on Facebook, I get 56 likes in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If I say something fucking real, nothing from anybody. You know what I mean?
But you should also visit Zach's page someday, which we're going to walk through together.
But I had just to be an antagonist, I was like, nothing says white privilege like calling everything racism. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're right. I think that, and then the nebulous part of, with the Antifa thing, it's just like, well, it's okay. How come you're not criticizing Antifa? Well, because they're fighting Nazis. There are no Nazis. Oh, those guys that they're marching with the tiki torches. That's not a Nazi. That's a small group that would have gone away if you hadn't fucking posted them on social media. But also, by going and putting cement in a milkshake and throwing it at their head doesn't make you the good guy. When they do it, they're the bad guy. But when you do it, the community benefits. You know what I mean? So you get this nebulous morality, and you can't even talk to people about a grown adult. That's why I haven't been on in a while. The big fight I had with these people, I was just like, "What are you? You're not helping. You're just saying it's okay to give somebody else's kid a brain hemorrhage because you don't like the politics he's on. Yeah, of course, Nazis are fucking bad. But there's no Nazis on every corner. There's no insurrection that needs to fucking happen. These are all ideas in everyone's heads. Yeah. And then for you to go in and say, well, I'm going to use unprovoked violence against people. Why? Well, because they use unprovoked violence on people. It's like, you're really fucking missing the point.
Two wrongs do not make a right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is now. It's all right, we're going to do this because they do it. I'm like, no, two wrongs don't make a right. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. Two wrongs do not make a right. Yeah. As much as you want it to make a right, it doesn't. The only way to solve this is to, be right.
Exactly. And that's how you can tell people's motivation, because you just want to fight and you're looking for a noble reason to do it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I was just thinking about the idea of posting Antifa and all those other type of things. And I'm looking at it from a positive perspective. But one thing that really annoys me about it is that everyone wants to see a change in society in general. People want so many things to happen, yet they always focus on the shit that's pissing them off, right? And that shit drives me crazy, because I'll just be going down my feed like, oh, that's nice. Look at those shoes. Oh, that person and their happy family. Like, oh, they somewhere got bombed. Okay, now I know. I've been made aware that some bombing shit happened from a terrorist group. I'm aware of this thing. Oh, this person's also pissed. Okay, now all these people shared the same article. Okay, like I'm like, come on, like it's so like when I think about the positive perspective, it's like if you really want to like work on changing things, you have to kind of not give the shit that's a waste of your time anytime.
Yeah, you are hyper focusing on the negative in the name of being positive.
Yeah.
It's like you're filtering the air with the stuff that you said we're not supposed to be breathing. Right. And you're offering no solutions.
And that's the worst thing about it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this fucking shit. It happened again. When are they going to remove guns from people? Like, I'm like, all right, cool. That's the conversation I'm going to see for the next 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny because I haven't been on Facebook much lately because you just go on there. And I would go on there and I'd be like, I've got the answer to this. I'll fix this. And then you just get pulled into more of this sap.
That's what you
and
don't
then
want to talk
I walk
about
away
it.
and I'm just like, I'll be at
that?
lunch and I'll just be like, I feel bad. Like something happened today bad. And I was like, oh, when I was on fucking Facebook. You know what I mean? I was just to the point like, I hate doing this. And yeah, it's really weird. And no one's also, there's that expression, no snowflake in an avalanche feels responsible. Everyone's criticizing what's wrong with the world. Nobody is taking any personal responsibility to be a better person themselves. Yeah. They're waiting for everyone else to do it.
Which is the big thing. Be the change you want to see in the world.
It's corny, but it's really fucking true. Yeah. And Marianne Williamson, our next female president of the United States, was using the analogy of bodies' cells. It's like you have to, the cell that decides not to do its job is cancer. So it's like you have every single cell out of the million cells all has to do what the fuck they're supposed to do for the entire unit to work properly. So everyone's out there, I want to do my thing, but I want it to be I want the world to be harmonious. It's like it doesn't work like that.
With the nobility that we were talking about, like with people like getting angry, it's like bringing back to a point earlier. I mean, like this is like the post-war era, and so there's like we don't have anything like that at that level again. Like, and so I think that's like why we're kind of clamoring. I mean, like being born like way after like World War II, it's like, and then you're in history class in school, and it's just kind of like someone being like, "Dude, you like there's this huge ass fight, like great evil, great good, and like there was just battles raging, it was epic, it was, and everyone was like, whoa, that sounds incredible. Like, where is this? Oh no, it's done. It happened a lot. Like you missed it, and it's just kind of like, oh, like
so it's
I don't
like
have
trying to
anything
recreate
like
that glory.
And, yeah, like people want to have that kind of, it's almost like this romanticism of it, of this like battling of this like
definitely a lot of
and so
of the World War situation.
And so we kind of, I mean, like especially when like they won't even, when it comes to the sign, and I always just kind of find it funny, like they won't put the second part of it, they just put the word resist, and it's like, yeah, what are you resisting against right now? Right. Yeah, you're
Rise
not.
Up.
Yeah, like to what? What are you
what?
like?
Yeah.
What are you? What is it like? Resistance. Like, what are you fighting? Are you in the shadows? Are you trying to like to go through the secret tunnels right now? Because no one can say you're blasting all your stuff on social media and letting everyone know. That's not resistance, man. Like the resistance is like something that's like underground. Like you're not being known because everyone's got to be in the hush hush about it. Because if you get found out about it, then they're going to come after you. So like that's clearly not the resistance. You're at the forefront. You're making the blank. Like blade statements, and sure, yeah, if there's something you're disagreeing with, then let it be known. It's like, hey, I'm not cool with this. That's fine. But we're at this point, there's no like big enough that's why we're just saying we're gonna fight the fascism. It's like if fascism was actually like going on right now, you would not be allowed to congregate in this space.
Yeah.
They would take you away. No one would have known you were taken away. Yeah. No one would know. Your existence would be stripped from the records, and your family would be the only ones asking questions, and they'd be told to shut up. That's what would happen if we were living in this said fascist state that you're wishing almost that we were in, so that you would have the justification to fight in it.
But I got to break glass and keep Jordan Peterson from public speaking, or else it's going to get to that point.
Yeah.
I learned so much from you gentlemen today.
It's been fun.
Feeling is mutual. Mm.
What was that?
That was the GoPro saying, good night, everybody.
Yeah, it just stopped recording.
Sleep well.
These two are still going, right?
No, I'm pretty sure they cut before the GoPro.
Gratuitous promotion?
Oh.
One moment.
All right, guys, check out the Bitten Apple TV. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and check out my writing show if you want to learn or continue this journey to become better writers with me. Then we and you can become better writers together, and we can write, which is the best way to start writing.
Mike, gratuitous promotion. You don't even have a shoe in your hand.
Do you want me to go get it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to get it. Either way, so Therealmikewilson.com. I have shoes and shit. I promote it like the last episode.
I want the shit.
I don't want to be that guy. But thank you. Appreciate it. It's really dope always talking to you guys. You have anything to
Yeah, it
promote?
was a lot of fun.
George Stass's Living in Dylan song music video coming out soon. Stay tuned. It'll be on YouTube.
Your turn.
Hi-Shelf. We're having a line of sashes coming out this season.
I love sashes.
All right.